Hey everyone, welcome to the Ceres podcast. I'm your co-host Stelios, the founder and director of Ceres. Joining me in today's Read the News is my co-host David Nicolaou from Orkley Friary in Orkley, near Doncaster. But don't hold that against him. We'll delve deeper into David's industry insights in an upcoming episode where he will be discussing his experiences both in and out of the fish and chip business. Take a moment to go find the Ceres podcast discussion group on Facebook. We're here to spice things up and addressing pressing matters from the industry as well. As you may know, the Read the News format is where we discuss articles that have been posted on the Ceres blog, and you will find out why David is the perfect co-host for this format. Today's episode is brought to you by Ceres Mushy Pea Seasoning, your go-to for enhancing homemade mushy peas effortlessly. Say goodbye to artificial liquid colourings and simplify your cooking process. Our mushy pea seasoning is crafted to boost the flavour of your mushy peas whilst making the process straightforward. The key features are allergen-free, made with natural ingredients, and they are free from artificial colourings. But don't just take our word for it. Here's a glowing 5-star review from Mark Drummond. We've always made our own mushy peas, but using the Ceres mushy pea seasoning has streamlined the process and ensured consistency. Instead of manually mixing several ingredients, we now use a single measure of the seasoning to achieve a uniform taste every time. I think it's fair to say he said it better than we did. Are you interested in trying it out yourself? Visit ceres.shop to order with free next day delivery across mainland UK. Keep up with everything Ceres by following us on social media or by joining our mailing list, and you can find the link in the episode show notes. Share this podcast with your friends. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you're enjoying it, and spread the word. Now, let's dive into today's Read the News. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
Actually,
Hello.
You don't need a welcome no more. Well, this is you. This is half of your show. You can also welcome me, actually.
Welcome, Stelios. Hello. Welcome to Read the News.
So, it's always good to have a little fun. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this thing, make it a real thing, not just, we did one before, and one of the Read the News before, which I did with lots of different people. And I really love this format. I think it's a great format. I think it ties our website together with our podcasting. We get to talk about the news, have a laugh about the news, and obviously be sad about the news if it's a sad story. But I just think that we don't talk about enough of these things. But what I really liked about you, David, and this is one of the main reasons why I asked you to be a full-time co-host, is that you really did your homework. You came ready, you came prepared, and naturally you're witty anyway. So I quite like that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, is it prepare to fail or fail to prepare? Something like that. Is that the saying? I don't know.
The saying is.
I had a friend who used to like everything. Used to have like a saying for it, and that was it. And he was ex-army, and they have the same for everything, don't they? So am I temporarily permanent or permanently temporary?
I think. Well, let me just. My brain's not on fire. I've not had my new tropics today.
I have. I've had my mushroom gummies about an hour before they just kicked in. Very nice. It's a blend of 10 mushrooms. Yeah. New tropic.
See, I just like garlic sautéed mushrooms.
No, I don't know what's in them, but they certainly work.
No, honestly, like new tropics are the future, David. I'm telling you now, mate.
Yeah, increases concentration, stamina.
Yeah. But what happens when you still get bored?
I don't know.
That's just they've got something wrong with you.
You can't fix everything, can it?
No, but you are now the official replica, and the temporary permanent person for this post. So
do I get a badge?
I can give you a badge. I'll give you on Thursday when I see you.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
So, read the news. So you've chosen all the articles. Actually, you've taken the lead and chosen every single one. Whereas last time we did half and half. And, and I haven't done the most research on this, so you can tell me off. If I'm not prepared here, you can tell me off now. So,
well, I've done my homework, so
yes,
I should be clued in.
Yeah, I think as always you do a grand job, and
thank you.
But let's crack on with this, baby.
Yeah, cool.
So, do you want to do the introduction, or shall I?
Go for it. Your job.
So, I can still do it. So, bless. You want to work up to the top post? We'll get there, mate. It's fine. So,
I'll start slow.
Greg successfully overcomes technical glitch, resuming normal operations. And that's the title. And the article description is essentially Greg swiftly resolved technical issues, allowing UK outlets to resume normal operations after a temporary closure due to payment processing disruptions. And essentially, Greg's and numerous other companies like McDonald's and I think Starbucks had a problem as well, had some sort of outage. So what's your thoughts on this, David, being a technical person?
I was in that field. It's weird. Well, I mean, we're so reliant on technology for everything we do in a business these days, that if one little thing fails, the entire business is sort of thrown into disarray. I mean, we use pre-a-day for internet ordering, and if it's guaranteed if it's going to go down, it's going to be on a Friday night. And and it's just it just then the phones start ringing and people want to order, and it's just you just start disrupting people's pattern. They get really upset. But this was a doozy, this one, because they came into work in the morning and all the tills were blank. Apparently, there was no menus on the tills, so they couldn't even ring a sausage roll in. But isn't there a saying that is it an army's only 3 meals away from mutiny?
Is that what they say?
I think I can't remember who said it, but are we? Is it a country only 3 sausage rolls away from collapse? Stop people's sausage rolls. Then you don't want to mess with people in the morning, mate, do you? No, not for the breakfast anyway. But apparently they blamed it on an update.
Right, it wasn't Prioday's fault then.
No, it wasn't Prioday's fault. I'm sure Mr. Hooker can breathe a sigh of relief. We're not going to go down that road. But the thing about it was, so that happened on the 11th of March, I think it was. And then on the 15th of March, McDonald's had the glitch. And that was a global. And they blamed it on a third-party update. A certificate hadn't been renewed, something like that. And then on the 17th of March, Sainsbury's had a glitch. And the tills wouldn't take orders, payment process wouldn't go through. I think Tesco joined in too, the Club Card app fell over. And then on the 22nd, the Nationwide Building Society had an outage, and their payment processing system went down. But the thing is, they all blame system updates, but nobody's saying specifically what went wrong, and no one's saying there's a third-party vendor. Now, they aren't using the same third-party vendors. I went back to my old magazine that I used to read when I was a computer professional called Computer Weekly, and they delved into it quite deeply in terms of the vendors, and this is where I got all the correlations from, and they were saying that they haven't got common vendors, they haven't got common payment processors. So has something gone on in the background that they're not telling us? They're all saying it wasn't a cyber attack. We don't know what it was, but it's definitely not a cyber attack. And are we? The lady doth protest too much. Are we a bit the screaming that it's not a cyber attack, but something's gone on in the background? But it's even if it wasn't a hack, it's fallen over in such a classic way that a hacker would be proud of it. It took down an entire system. I mean, McDonald's lost $5 billion off the share price that morning.
Wow!
I mean, that's a lot of money. I think Greg's got 40 million wiped off the share price. I mean, we're so reliant on this technology to actually run businesses, and there's no backup plan. You can't start getting mechanical tills out and calculators and adding machines because staff today can't do that. There's no way they can revert to paper systems. I mean, lots of places just shut. So that was it. It was just easier to close the place than have any sort of a system in place.
I read somewhere that McDonald's basically realised it was going to happen and then pushed it to take sort of control of it, because they basically said something like, we knew we had to do this update. It was going to be chaotic, so we just decided to do it rather than wait for it to go on its own.
Yeah, but that's a £5 billion mistake. If somebody said to you, we're going to do an update, and by the way, it's going to cost you £5 billion, you'd turn around and say, I think not.
But that's a share price thingy.
Shall we do it on an Easter Sunday when we shut?
Yeah,
it's not. But someone's going to take advantage of that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Warren Buffett probably bought a load at a low price, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe he did it.
It's not that. It's not the buying that you have to worry about. It's the short sellers that you have to worry about. But that's a completely other different.
I think really. On the whole, I think you're right. And if these bigger companies struggle to get it right, how will smaller companies that, let's simplify it somewhat. If the Wi-Fi goes down, have you got a 4G SIM as I forgot what they call it, like a failover? Have you got other systems in place? If your credit card terminal breaks, or if you're with Dojo and it has a downtime, have you got a sum up in the back that you could bring at the front? So I think with this, I think there's this. Technology is a big thing now, and if you don't, if you don't understand it at the best of times, you're not going to understand every single system you have in place. You may, because you're quite technologically minded. But I use some software that I don't fully understand sometimes, and I think so. You can imagine that if something goes down, what is your failsafe? What have you got that's ready to step in? Yeah,
I mean, you've got to have something to back you up so you can keep going. I mean, your card machine goes down, and you turn around to customers and say, "I'm sorry, the card machine's gone down. It's cash only," and you're in a world of pain because lots of people don't carry cash. Yeah. We had a problem where the software on the card reader didn't talk to the new Apple phones. So everybody came in with the swanky new Apple phones and Apple Pay, and it just refused it. It took the money out of the bank on their side of things. It said that I've paid you, but it said no, it's been declined, and they couldn't quite get the fact that the Apple Pay doesn't talk to the back office systems. It just says I've made a payment, and I think 10 minutes later it rolls back. So. Even down to software, but years and years ago, IT was seen as the necessary evil, for payroll and to replace that army of people that used to do all the clerical stuff behind. But I mean, now it's your business partner. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we couldn't function without internet orders. I mean, it streamlines Friday nights so much for us. I mean, as soon as we put those orders in, we went up a good 10 to 15% because we could just prepare them and shift more customers through the shop. So, now we've got kiosks.
You mentioned
so they all. I mean, and IT. People, especially people like McDonald's. I mean, their business is not. You will probably disagree because I know you have a long-standing passion for the Golden Arches, but they are in my mind designed not to really focus on quality, but to focus absolutely on throughput. It's getting that burger into someone's mouth and out the door as quickly as possible, and they'll use every bit of leverage technology to do it through kiosks, ordering apps, delivery. You could take my hat off to them. They are a machine for making money. Not particularly great burgers, I don't think, but No, I
do think though. If if Preoday's your chosen vendor, let's say for your online store, we're not picking on them. It's just because that's who you mentioned.
Yeah.
If that was to go down, and it will, because there's only so much server capacity on a good day, and like you said, it always goes on a Friday. And I wonder if that is because of increased usage across all of those.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might not be that, and Nick could tell us otherwise if it is. But I think ultimately, though, like if that was to go off, like. Is there an emergency store that can pop up in its place that says, "Oh, yeah, our normal store's down. Can you go through here?" Whether customers would trust it is a different story. You know,
the problem is, it just depends where the failure occurs, because everything is a chain. So Priode have servers. I mean, I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if you, when Silicon Valley Bank went under. Are you aware of what happened with that?
Wasn't it an AWS issue?
No, it was, Silicon Valley Bank in America was the big incubator banks for Silicon Valley startups. And they seem to be in the same incubator as Priode. Okay. So what happens if you're in, as I understand it, if you're in an incubator, and they say to sort of Priode comes along and says, we want some funding, they'll say, yeah, sure, here's the funding. And by the way, in the same incubator, there's a server farm and a payment processor. So they're pushing their own services with their own incubators. So Silicon Valley Bank went under on Friday afternoon, I think it was, or Friday evening in America. And at some point, the entire server farm just went offline. So for a moment, Priode didn't even exist as a website. If you typed app.priode.com, it'd all gone. So it just makes you wonder if somebody had found out that Silicon Valley Bank was going under, they weren't going to get paid tonight, and they hit kill on the server and walked off. You don't know what goes on because the entire server farm disappeared. So you're not prone to. I'm sure Nick's going to could tell us more about this, but if from my point of view, it disappeared, and it was a coincidence that Silicon Valley Bank disappeared at the same time as well until it got bailed out by the government.
I think
so. You can't mitigate for these failures.
But if all of these companies that we just mentioned, so Greggs, McDonald's, and whoever, and I think Sainsbury's and a few of these had it. So if they're all using different SaaS software, so what does SaaS mean again, David? Software at the point of service. Software
as a service.
Yeah,
It's cloud. It's the old version, the old name for cloud, basically.
And let's say it's all hosted on AWS, and we're using Amazon AWS as an example. If there's a failure there, then there's going to be multiple failures across 6 or 7 different softwares, which would cause a problem in itself, couldn't it?
Yeah, but people like Amazon have got mirrored servers. So you'll have servers on each continent, and they're sequenced and mirrored together. So you'll back up one server to another. If the British side or the European server fails, it'll fail over to the American server. And the data might be, a few milliseconds out of date because it is synchronized. I mean, so you'd have to. I mean, it's a misnomer that data travels. We're getting into a really technical conversation now. That data doesn't travel by satellites; it travels by a big fibre optic cable that's laid on the bottom of the Atlantic. So you can sequence and synchronize servers within milliseconds. To be honest, so that's what happens, and that's why. We cache everything in Europe, and we access the European side, and America has the American side, so we're not squirting traffic backwards and forwards down the cable between us and America. So yeah, if one server goes, another server farm picks it up because there's fail safes. So you'd have to actually have a failure of communication. So there'd be something in there that failed that allowed stop the server. But all these, I mean, I don't no one's telling you how old the IT is. I mean, some systems are 20 years old, 20, 30 years old, that are still there. And if they do an upgrade and it doesn't go very well, it's it's just bad programming.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
Could be right.
But I don't know. I don't believe what they're saying. I don't believe it was a server failure because it's just there was a cluster of them all in one go. So I don't know if it's any bad actor or hackers, or I don't know.
But this is why I'm thinking more down the line of everyone's packing, using data services. It's all online. It's all elsewhere. No one's really got servers on site anymore. So yeah, for me, that's why I was leaning towards that route. But I
don't think there's nothing. Like having your own information in your own shop. I was looking at went to the show at Olympia, I think it was in October, and they had all the new tills and kiosks, and everything seems to be pushed as now as a cloud till, and that's great. and because it's cheaper, and you can just hire it, you're on a monthly subscription of what, 60, 70 quid, and you get the equipment provided for you, but it's on their cloud. But you don't own your data. And if anything goes off, if your internet goes down, you're stuffed. You're not selling anything.
Can they look at your data? Can they?
Yeah, sure they can. It's not your data.
Okay,
you don't own that data.
It's their data then.
It's their data. Yeah, that you're renting, basically.
A bit like Gmail.
Yeah. They can. I mean, I don't know if you know that I see the terms and conditions, but they go through your Gmail and pass it to see if they can sell you advertising stuff. So if you're talking to me about I want a new car, you'll probably suddenly find out you get car adverts appearing in your Google searches. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So but
that's the cost of them providing the service. It's their data.
Yeah, but if you wanted a hard drive on site under your tills, let's say, or in your office, is that an option these days?
Yeah, I think so. I think still. I mean, tills still have that. I mean, I think we have an ICR system, and that's all stored on the hard. It's a Windows machine stored on a hard drive. So it's the data's ours. It's in the system, and Preode as well. The data is actually ours. Yeah, that's our customer data. They don't own that data.
So Preode can't share none of that data to like build reports or everything.
I don't think so. I think Nick gave a really good speech. Nick Cooker from Preode gave a really good speech at the Isle of Ely last year. And it was about owning your own data. That Preode do not own your data. It is your data to do as you will.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we have another company that mines that data and gives us information on customers that have not been for a while, and we can market to those people so we can get customers back in. It's really good, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, moving on. Well, there's no conclusion.
Just finishing off with that. But if you are a company like McDonald's or a company like Greggs, you cannot get away from having a centralised data store, because how the hell do you get price changes to 4,000 shops? You've got to have a central point for information, and it comes and fetches it from that central point.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, I'd imagine they've got some hybrid systems where they've got some local storage and some offline storage for sure.
Evidently not. Because none of the tills work. There's no menus in the tills, so they're all just empty. So everything seems to run off a cloud. It's cheaper.
Yeah. Well, maybe I could rent some of my server space to McDonald's.
You've got enough, haven't you? You've got huge amounts.
I've got loads. I have got loads. Yeah, I have. I got a little bit excited. So, yeah. Well, we'll build a case. We'll sell it to them. See what they say.
You never know your luck, do you?
Maybe they'll let me look at their data and I can sell that as reports as well. So, moving on, young man. Settlement awarding in Uber Eats facial recognition bias case. So, Uber Eats driver, what's his name? Par Adrissa Mandrang secures a settlement after experiencing racial bias from the app's facial recognition system, leading to his wrongful account suspension. Oh dear. So they're saying that this is an AI discrimination case in the gig economy. So, yes, you go for this one, mate.
So what I was looking at, that Uber Eats use a selfie authentication system to see if that driver is the right driver or the right rider. Because we've got another story coming up where, and it was Deliveroo who don't do that, and something quite nasty happened when a substitution driver was put in place. So the problem being facial recognition software that they use, it's a Microsoft system, misidentifies black people 5 to 10 times more than it misidentifies white people. So, and this software is used by lots of police forces. I think America use it, Australia use it, the French use it, and it is really bad at faces that are black. And especially black women that wear makeup. It's particularly useless. So if you want to get away with something, wear makeup. So yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. 1 in 10,000 false match rate for white people, or 1 in 1,000 for black people. So it's significantly higher. women's worse rate due to makeup. And ironically, the Chinese have the best algorithms for facial recognition. And I don't know if you know the story where you get fined for crossing the road. You heard about that? In China. Did you know about the story?
Go on,
I'll tell you.
Well, so whether I know it, tell everyone.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to tell everyone. So if you cross the road in China in a city against the light, so if it's not green for go, the facial recognition software will have picked you up, identified you, fined you, and taken the money out the bank of your bank account before you get to the other side of the road. Wow. It is that efficient.
No messing around, is there?
There's no messing around with the Chinese. And apparently Russia's got really good facial recognition. So we have to go and have to make friends with Russia again and say, can we borrow your facial recognition software? So basically, go on. Sorry.
So I'd argue that for a while, this has been a problem. And I think there a lot of sensors, for some strange reason, can't tell the difference between black and white colour, in fact. And I think when I was... So did you ever remember there was a case a few years ago where a black chap sued... what was it? He sued a toilet hand dryer company or a hand soap company because the electric sensors are based on light. So when you put your hand under it, it notices that there's a colour change, and then let's say that I think it's infrared. So I think so when something breaks that signal, it then squirts out liquid. Let's say, yeah. But because the hand was black, they're saying the sensor didn't recognise that the sensor was being that the light was being broken. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if it's a light, okay. If it's a light detector, I can understand it. If it's infrared, it's going to be based on heat. So unless it's running a lot colder than everybody else, but that's bad design, though, isn't it? There seems to be
a few issues here.
Yeah,
it is bad design. It is.
Did nobody test that on anybody that didn't have white skin? But then again, would an engineer have thought of that?
I don't know. Well, you'd think they would, but it just sounds like completely messy.
But apparently, what's happened as well is they've moved to this system of AI checking, and it kept saying to him, selfie, and apparently the European Court, it took it to the Equalities on the European Court, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, and they said the amount of selfies it requested amounted to racial harassment. So, but an Uber representative said, our real-time ID check is designed to help keep everyone who uses the app safe and includes a robust human review to make sure that we're not making decisions about someone's livelihood in a vacuum without oversight. But apparently they have, because no one's reviewed it, and it said, oh no, in 2021 they kicked him off the account due to continued mismatches. So they just thought he was getting somebody else to pop up to work for it.
Which is clearly a problem for them, though. Which is
it is because sort of speaking in terms of a predominantly black people and darker skinned people going to drive for Uber. I don't know. I don't know. It seems to be. Uber drivers in London seem to be.
I'm not being funny though. I'm not being funny. That you mentioned earlier, engineers not thinking of this. There's engineers in Africa. There's a Microsoft. If you think the content in Africa is black heavy, in terms of colour of people, so you'd think, would you not maybe design something there also to see how it works? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to find a black face to test your algorithm off. Well, but they've known about this for years, and it's not the fact that I don't understand why it's not as efficient. But it's not terrible. It's 1 in 1,000 as opposed to 1 in 10,000. But if you're that 1 in 1,000 and it turns around and says, we can't pick your facial features up, we're going to kick you off.
I think there is a problem with the whole AI learning model, because wasn't there a few, was it a year ago or something, when Google brought out their AI, which was meant to challenge GPT.
Yeah.
And and apparently again, this isn't me, this is Google that did this. But apparently, if you said show us an African family, it would show gorillas.
Yes, and so can you show me a picture of the Pope? And it was a a black rendering of a pope, and it seemed to be.
Oh no!
Is that the one?
You're on about
right. Sorry,
I'm on about something slightly different. But you're on about the one where even when it'd say like, "Can you show me a photo of Nazis?" It would show black people.
Black people. Yeah, it was just it just completely didn't work.
I wonder if there is some. I wonder if they're like preloading all this AI with all of this, trying to be
this wokerism,
careful and everything, and then it just ends up being confused.
Well, yeah, I mean, it confuses me anyway. So it's. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that there's that many drivers, there's that many users of the system on the platform that they would need an absolute army of operators behind it. So it's just easy to use machine learning algorithms and AI. But we've got a very technical set of choices today.
But why not use the biometrics that are on the iPhone or the Google phone? Clearly that works. You attach that to the login. It can't be that hard. Like my NatWest account does that. My NatWest uses the biometrics from my iPhone. Why can't the Google one? I'm sure Google will do exactly the same. Why do they need to be using Microsoft AI for this? Like, why can't it just be done locally?
I don't know. I didn't design the system.
I don't know.
But does the Google and the iPhone have the same bias? Just has the same problem? Is it the problem that's inherent in all?
I don't think so, because it will be on your phone and my phone, and we have different phones. It's using the phone the face that's given to it locally.
Yeah.
So you're David, I'm Stelios. It clearly knows our faces, and then it should you'd log in, it give you a token, and then Uber can let you go. I think Uber Eats is going to listen to this, mate. I'm telling you right now, they're going to listen to this and they're going to pay us to fix this problem. And we probably won't have to do this again. We'll be rich. I'm telling you now, mate. We've just sold.
I'm not waiting.
Well, you already are.
I'm not waiting for the call.
Yeah, I'm not waiting for the call. I'm already rich.
I'm not waiting for the call. I'm not saying a word.
I just think, joking aside, I just think, are companies overcomplicating things? And maybe they're probably thinking, well, if it's done locally, then someone could technically train the biometrics to think a face as someone else. But I don't know. I just think I could see it being a problem, though, because obviously we're going to get onto this shortly. It is clearly a big problem, and how many times do people rent their patch? They'll rent their patch because they'll say, I think was it. Uber, not Uber. I think it was
Deliveroo.
Had this, yeah. Deliveroo had this problem where people basically say, you can
sub somebody in. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, it can't be that hard to solve the problem. But this is the problem with this route to saving cost through machine learning and AI. And they're replacing human interaction. Because obviously there's a huge cost of having people sat there waiting to verify something or sort these verifications out. Just easy to use AI. But we get into a point. I mean, there was a guy. Did you hear about that guy in America with the Amazon house?
What's an Amazon house?
It's another story. So he's got Alexa he replaced all his light bulbs with Alexa light fitting. The command one that you can turn on with Alexa.
Yeah.
And all his sockets in his house as well were wired. He rewired the place. The guy worked for Microsoft. I mean, he was heavily into tech. Anyway, it got a Ring doorbell. An Amazon driver had turned up, dropped a package off, pushed the doorbell, and nobody was in. And the doorbell was saying was programmed after if no one answered, no one picked it up after 3 rings or something. It said, "I'm sorry, there's no one here to let you in. How can I help you?" And it was Alexa that actually was connected to this doorbell. And he's walking away, but he had his headphones on, and he thought somebody through the doorbell made a racial slur. And so he went back to Amazon and made a complaint. And while the complaint was being processed, they locked the guy out of his house, so he couldn't turn his telly on or his lights until it was resolved, because he'd got a. Yeah, seriously, get on and nothing would work. So yes, so I mean, it took him 7 days for it to be reviewed. But in the meantime, they just shut him out. They locked him out of his Amazon Home account, so he couldn't even turn a damn light on or put a telly on.
I'm going to have to check this. I'm going to have to check this stuff.
It's true. It's true. You're laughing. It's true. I mean,
I am laughing.
This is the ultimate. AI doing it all for you. It left. There's no humans involved in the system. And when they said that we're not making decisions about someone's livelihood in a vacuum, but they are. There's always looking at these things. They're just leaving it to AI because presumably there's not enough people to do it.
On the flip side, did you ever hear about that story about... It was early on when the Alexas were quite new, and this guy murdered his wife, and he had an Alexa in the house, and the police came in and just saw it there by chance and just said something like, "Hey Alexa, play the last 3 hours worth of sound."
No.
Yeah, and he got caught. It got replayed. And I don't know if that's a myth, but I swear it's true.
How have they got enough storage to listen to it?
Because it's on AWS, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
And then they're using it, remember, because Alexas are cheap, they're using it to... Well, at one point, Alexas were being sold for like 15 quid, 20 quid, so,
Yeah.
So
well, they were below cost, weren't they? They were pushing them out below cost to get them out there.
Exactly.
I've got a friend who's got one all over his... He's got them all over his house. He's got one in his bathroom.
Yeah, but remember
when... Alexa, play the last 3 hours of me in the toilet.
Oh, that's not a soundtrack I'd want to hear.
God.
But like, well, if someone's in the toilet for 3 hours, that's pretty worrying too. Yeah. But like, even remember the Samsung TVs that were recording all the conversations, sending everything back to the servers. Yeah. And again, they're using it to advertise things to you. And I think this is the problem. Like, if you're not paying for something, chances are you are the product. And I think this probably goes back to this to some degree.
No such thing as free. They're garnering your data. In fact, the Samsung tellies were getting hacked. Yeah. They found the security, and you could park outside someone's house and actually get into the telly and see if they were in. So they were burgling houses with. They weren't doing it in England. They were doing it in Japan. It started out, but they were burgling apartments and houses.
I always thought
the assistance of smart TVs.
I had this preconceived idea that no one gets burgled in Japan. I just found that maybe they're far too polite to burgle each other.
I would imagine the underbelly of Japan is pretty much like the underbelly of every other country, just because they nod and bow.
True.
Which I'd love. I really have to visit one day. I've had a
just because they're polite before they mug you.
That's right. They're bow first and afterwards. But I've got so many hopes for this AI. And if you watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'd always wanted to howl.
Is that the girl is that the woman with the afro in it?
I don't know.
The one that was in...
yes.
The one that was in... Scarface.
I can't remember.
Well, there you go. I didn't know.
Space 2000. They had HAL 9000.
Ed Harris.
I don't know. I don't think so. Arthur C. Clarke, Space 2001, Stanley Kubrick film, amazing.
Okay.
Sci-fi. But yeah, that's what you want, but you're going to end up with... have you seen Elysium? Where the wealthy are all living on a wheel in orbit, and we're all run by AI robots beating us up. That's probably what we're going to get. We're not going to get sort of discovering the cosmos with a friendly computer with a really steady voice,
What is it you once told me? What is it you once told me?
Oh, I've told you lots of things. You're going to have to remind me.
You'll have nothing and you'll be happy. I said, well, I've got nothing. I've got nothing and I'm depressed.
Yeah. I've started out with nothing. I've got most of it left. That's the other one, isn't it? Yeah, that was Mr. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Yeah, someone's going to own it. So,
well, I like I said, at the top of this, I have nothing, and I'm depressed about it.
Most of it left.
Yeah. So, when food delivery goes wrong, a grievous assault case. Delivery rider Jennifer Rocha pleads guilty to causing grievous bodily harm after biting off a customer's thumb during a confrontation over a delivery mix-up. The incident highlights concerns about worker screening and responsibility in a gig economy like this. Why did you choose this one?
It's like, I know, it's just so horrific. I mean, It's just, I mean, so a guy's ordered. By the way, the Daily Mail has it as £57 worth of Pizza Express pizzas.
Wow. Well, what's that, like a pizza?
Yeah, £57 worth of pizzas. Yeah, because obviously the Daily Mail's obsessed with how much everything costs. I'm surprised it didn't say that the man who lived in a £200,000 house ordered a £57 pizza, but they just seem to be price obsessed with house prices and how much things cost. But yeah, he'd ordered a pizza, and the delivery driver had swapped out, and this is what we were saying before, that Deliveroo allow substitutes. So everybody on Deliveroo is self-employed. Mm-hmm. And those self-employed people can sub out their ride or their job to another person. And it's the person that's subbing out that is responsible for making sure that those people are vetted and they're lawful to work. But clearly it's not quite happened in this case because she's arrived at the wrong address. He's got a message on his phone that your pizza's arrived, but she was down the road. So he's basically said, you're at the wrong address. Can you bring it up the road? And she's refused. So he's walked down the road, didn't bring his phone. She wanted a confirmation code to say it was him. He didn't have his phone on him. He didn't have his confirmation code. And they've started fighting. And at some point, he's managed to get his hand inside her crash helmet because she's still got a helmet on, and she's bit his thumb off. Clean off.
You know what I don't get? Well, aside from all of this weirdness, but
yeah,
how have companies like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Just Eat, how have they managed to employ people that aren't employed and are completely self-employed?
Yep.
They don't pay any. They've got really no employment rights.
Well, they've already legally proved, haven't they? Hasn't it been legally tested that the riders are self-employed?
Yeah, okay.
So you are responsible for your own holiday pay, your own tax.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
but
but now they've not even got public liability to the point where the rider has done something, and so let's dial this back in a step. If that rider had just crashed into your car, David, have they got any liability? Because chances are they've got no insurance, no nothing.
Well, I can't remember what I read a few days ago. Every week, about three vehicles are seized just because there's been an incident and they've found out they've got no business insurance for delivery. Like they've run into somebody or reversed into somebody. But yeah, the 3 vehicles a week are seized. I mean, and the police aren't particularly very efficient at doing much these days, so I imagine it's an awful lot more that, yeah, you're probably right. Well, but they've managed to completely abrogate themselves of any responsibility or any legal liability. Yeah. Yet they insist on obviously making a very good living out of both our industry and making sure that they're not paying out if anyone does anything. But yeah, I mean, he's had to have his thumb amputated above the knuckle of his thumb. And he's had a toe grafted on, part of his toe grafted onto his thumb to make a thumb. It's like, I was talking to this with the wife the other night, and she says, "My God, she's got a great dentist. She has the teeth are so strong." So I mean, she's bit his thumb clean off.
I'm not making a joke out of this, but
it's horrific.
I just can't get my head around how Deliveroo again, like. There's been a substitution which probably goes against their code, and you just think
it's not. It doesn't go against the code. They're quite happy with that.
Oh, are they quite happy with?
Yeah, no, you can do that because you're self-employed. So what the guy who's subbed out, they've kicked him off the platform for not vetting his substitute.
Yeah, but again, why is it his job? This is again. Like, I feel like we've let these companies create a business, squeezing themselves into the middle of everything, and then said, "You don't have to check anything. It's fine." The people that work for you like dogs for hardly any money, that run around like idiots all day. No, idiots, because that makes it sound like they're thick. They're not. They're hard workers. And they then got to pay. They've got no holiday pay, no sick pay. They've got to do their own accounts at the end of the year, if they even do it. Like, And then you're saying to them, oh, if you are sick and you've got a replacement, you do the vetting. Oh, come on.
Like, I agree. No, it's just ridiculous. But they clearly, is that where Uber Eats different because they've gone through the validation?
Maybe. They're trying.
The validation with the AI to say, are you the right person or are you a substitute person? But the thing is, it's like, but when you sign up to these apps, you have what they call it TLDR, don't they? And it's the terms and conditions are too long. Don't read. And people just flick through the first page, and sign it and do it. I mean, I think we've all done that as business owners. We've seen terms and conditions, but obviously somewhere in there it just it says that we've got no responsibility. Thank you. It's all on you, and they've been allowed to get away with that.
But a lot of responsible companies now do have. They won't let you click next until you've read it all, or they'll put all
or scroll through it all.
Yeah, or scroll through it all, or they'll put all the important stuff up front now, and I just think, I just find it despicable. Like, I'm not one for saying, set up a union, but if there was ever a case, this is it, because honestly, it's an absolute joke, and I know that obviously by doing what I'm saying, making it harder, less people will do it, which means that. If Deliveroo had harder restrictions, let's say, it would cost more, which means the likes of your shops and your consumers would pay more. I get that, but I feel like we're looking the other way when there's a serious problem. I really do.
I agree with you. And it's not as if these companies aren't making money. They're taking a healthy slice off the top of... I would imagine mostly from the customer because... everybody I've spoke to said, "Are you on Deliveroo? And have you added it on?" So, we just added 30% on. If somebody wants to have the luxury of having it brought to them, they're going to have to pay for it. We're not subsidising it, so they're not without money. But you're right. They completely and utterly. Deliveroo. I'm sure they're American, aren't they? They start off in America.
No, I think they're UK based.
Are they?
Yeah, it's an Asian British guy called William Shaw.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Because it just seems to have the American stamp of deny everything, don't pay with, screw everybody. The American corporations, make as much as you can, and if you step on someone's throat on the way, then so what? And I don't know. I don't know how they've got away with it. I really don't. They've got some really good lawyers, clearly.
I just wonder what is going to happen to that marketplace with increased pressure on... what's the word? Immigration. I think with the increased immigration, we're going to see less people doing this job. So I think prices are going to end up going there anyway, to be honest. They're going to end up going up. So I do wonder if maybe bringing it in-house for people is probably going to be the best thing moving forward.
We've said if we're going to... We don't deliver. And we've said that if we're going to do it, we're going to probably go on the platforms for 3 to 4 months to prove that we've got a market and then bring it in-house. And then we can make sure that the quality's there.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I'll tell you why. No, because I think that once you do it, they'll target... And afterwards, they'll basically move your business targeted to other people. I think you start small... Based on your app, you just say, we're starting small, we're just doing a 1 mile radius this month. We'll see how it goes. We've only got X amount of slots, blah, blah, blah. Because I think that once you say to them for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, you become dependent on it.
Possibly.
Because a lot of the people say to me, they struggle to move people off platforms to their own platform.
Well, it's a very determined thing not to give you any data. You don't know who your customer is. That customer data. And again, we're back to Nick Hooker from Pre-A-Day was saying that you own your own data. We can go in and addresses and everything.
This is slightly different to the relationship we were saying earlier. How we were saying earlier that you're the you're the product, not the user. Well, in this instance, you're not the customer, you're the supplier.
You're the supplier. Sure, yeah, absolutely, so, yeah. And I don't think people in this industry understand that relationship when they're complaining about, oh, Uber's treated me or Deliveroo's treated me this badly. But, the standards that these guys are working under, there was a thing about dark kitchens the other day in London, and one of the comments made by the woman that set the dark kitchen, because she's got something like 16 or 17 different companies operating out this dark kitchen. And she was saying that it's really nice because we let the delivery drivers use the toilets and we've got a waiting area for them to collect stuff from. It's like, it's like you stood outside a restaurant and you can't go in and use the toilet and you're waiting for your food to be picked up in the rain. It's like, it's just, I know they try and make this gig economy as convenient and as, appear a bit sexy and convenient as they can, but, they never look very happy when I see them picking stuff up from places.
Thing is, the truth is, gig economy started off as a way for people to do top-up work or a way to earn a bit of money while they're at uni, but this has now clearly become a job. Clearly, sure. It is obvious. It is not something... people are doing this 50, 60, 70 hours a week. That's not a top-up job.
No, not at all.
If we look at pre-World War One, when ladies used to do a bit of piecemeal knitting at home, that would have been the origins of a gig economy. Yeah, but I'd imagine, even after World War Two, if your mum, I'm not saying she's that old, so I don't want her to wallop me, but if she decided to do 10 pieces at home in her spare time with a sewing machine, that is the true word to the gig economy. But if at home she's doing 1,000 pieces a week and she's literally got a business going, then I think that changes things somewhat. I
agree.
And if these people don't have other work, and I mean other work, so if he's not working at Asda and being employed, but what he's doing is working for 3 different aggregators, I think it's fair to say that is his main employment. And I think that I really feel like that we're doing these people more harm, and also the public harm, because this guy got his thumb bitten off.
Well, he was a plumber. He's now no longer. And I think it's amazing how much you use your thumb in a day, I guess. And he can't plumb anymore. So, but now because no one's taking liability, there's no one to sue. I mean, the woman that bit his thumb off is she's, I don't know where she's from, but she's here under a work visa. She may end up. I mean, the sentence is on the 3rd of May, so she's been found guilty but not sentenced yet. So she might end up in prison for this. So he's not going to get anything off her. The guy who's been sacked from Deliveroo is not going to pay anything out, and Deliveroo basically said, "Don't look at us. It's nothing to do with us."
I'd imagine, I'm no legal, but I'd imagine that he could probably sue them, as in Deliveroo. I'm convinced of it.
Who's going to pay for the court, though?
Well, yeah. Well, there's no win, no fee lawyers everywhere, mate. They relish this sort of thing.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Well, moving on, young man. That was a really good topic. I never thought I never thought I'd get so steamy on that one. But I think, I just feel strongly about the fact that we keep going on about how we've got great employment rights, and they are strong, but this is a clear flouting, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I think it's shocking. You just wash the hands. It's awful.
Yeah. So this article you chose is one of our new opinion series, which is written by yours truly. And the article was called "The Fight Against Shop Worker Assault. Is Britain Angry?" Summary: incidents of violence and abuse against retail workers and emergency service staff have surged, with reports highlighting the severity of the issue. Statistics reveal a significant increase in assault, thefts, and theft-related crimes, causing financial losses and widespread concerns. Da-di-da-di-da-di-da. So, this is really weird, David, because so I first saw this. No, what struck me actually was I was in a Greggs waiting for Alex to finish Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I saw a sign on the wall with a big donut around it, which is the image that we use for the article, and it said, 0 tolerance on abuse. And I'm thinking to myself, who's getting angry buying a sausage roll? Like, let's be honest. Like, what is wrong? Like, what if the local Greggs has to tell you to chill your beans? Like, something's wrong, isn't it?
Honestly, I mean, you've got some numbers. There's some numbers on that article, and it was, is it 8,000 incidents involving injury a year in retail? Let's pop the article back up. 1.8 billion lost due to shoplifting, 43% out of 3,082 workers, 65% endured verbal abuse, 43% faced threats, and 1 in 6 suffered assaults. Okay, this is mostly for shoplifting.
Yeah.
Violence against workers surged 50%. 1,300 incidents a day. 1,300 report. That's incidents that are reported.
I don't even know how they're being reported because the police ain't turning up for any of those. So
well, you can walk out from a shop with £200 worth of goods, and as long as you don't hit anybody on the way out, the police aren't going to even get involved.
The BRC, British Retail Consortium, report a 50% surge in incidents. So I was with my dad. Obviously, my dad had a serious stroke, as many might know, and I've been in hospital a lot with him. And even just sitting in hospital, the abuse that staff get. And I know it's not. And why I never really considered it is because obviously you're in a hospital. People are under distress. There's mental health issues, alcoholism, whatever. There's a lot going on in a hospital. So you don't really overly think it. But when you see it at the local Greggs, I think that's when it starts to make you think that it's happening at the top and it's happening at the bottom.
Do you think people are just so disconnected from the normal courtesies that we offer each other? Or is it the fact that Greggs, is catering for the £2 spend?
No, I don't think
is that who's? I think, I don't know. I think
Sainsbury's have the problem, Asda have the problem.
Yeah, it seems to be everywhere. It does seem to be everywhere.
I think, I was chatting to my brother the other day, and he saw that article, and he doesn't talk about much, to be fair, but he did say, he said, he's noticed that customers are a lot shorter now, a lot more angry. They
Not as tall.
Yeah, that. But maybe that's why they're angry.
It may well be.
But they come in and if they're complaining, and it's probably a valid complaint, but they've come in preloaded. They're angry.
Yeah.
And it's are they ramping it up because they think they're not going to be listened to?
I just think we're under so much pressure at this moment in time with financial everything, and the media are. There's a non-stop rhetoric. It's either going to be war, world war, Russia, threat from here, threat from there. There's no relent, and then you find out that your electricity bill's $3,000 a year, and your mortgage just doubled. And so are people more stressed?
So is it that, or are people more entitled? Is it stress, or is it entitlement? Is it you work for me? I want this. The customer's always right. Is it that sort of mentality too?
I don't know. You're gonna have to just reply. You're gonna have to say that because my earphones just shut off. I'm sorry, mate.
Yeah, no. Is it what I was saying? Is it entitlement? Is it that customers want what they want because customer is always right?
Just a minute, mate. Sorry. Right, go. Sorry, say that. Just roll that back a bit, mate. 'Cause I'm gonna have to edit that out. Sorry, it's cut off. It's gone into weird mode.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm good.
So is it a sense of entitlement? Is what I'm saying. Is it that customers think I'm the customer, I'm paying, do as I say?
I don't know. We don't. You see, I don't see any of that because we're in a little village, so we know everybody. I mean, you get some people coming through at lunchtime, and it's usually white van man, and they walk in. And you just think, I think you might be in the wrong shop, mate, because, we're pretty much, everything we do is high-end. We don't really have that many specials on. We don't give large amounts of food, stack it high, sell it cheap. That's not us. And when people look at the price and say, well, what do you get for that? And, you can sense they want a bargain. And I don't know, it's a completely different tack, but... I mean, the expectation when they walk into a fish and chip shop is it's cheap, with the cheapest cheapest gig in town. But that.
But the truth is, it's still cheaper than a lot of things. I think.
Well, we are still cheaper, compared to pizzas and kebabs, I guess.
Who was I with yesterday? I was with someone yesterday. I can't remember why though. Why do I remember this story? And we were talking, and he says. He said he went to the Chinese takeaway because he's their landlord, and he's next door. He's got a chip shop next door, and he said he saw the same customer in there, and the customer ordered something, and this got nothing to do with the story. It just plays back into what you were saying about customers' perception. And the order came to like 15 quid, 16 quid, and he left the Chinese takeaway 20 quid and go, oh, here's a tip, it's on me. He goes, but when the guy comes in next door to buy fish and chips, he moans about the price of fish and chips. So what compels someone to give a tip there? Yeah. And then I don't know.
I just think the problem that we've got in our industry is it's 160 years old, and and I think I've heard this said before. We're competing with ourselves from the 1980s. We've always been a cheap, source of protein. I mean, there's no way you can walk in anywhere and get a whole lump of protein that's freshly cooked, that's not been minced up and pushed through a massive machine. So in terms of what we produce, is fabulous, but we've always been the lower cost of it all, because so we had our own fish. We were surrounded by the bloody stuff, but clearly nobody wants to catch it anymore. But so there is that expectation that if you want something cheap, it's going to be a fish and chip shop, and that's why we as an industry, I think, have struggled when everything's gone through the roof, and we are probably wandering a little bit off track. But we've never sat down and said, look, we're a fabulous source of protein. It's cooked in front of you. It's fresh. It's not got lots of chemicals and sauces over it to hide, what's going on underneath. We don't shout about that enough. What we shout about is, oh, it's expensive. And that's So are we putting ourselves into that trap? And that's what I wonder. But going back to what you were saying about customers' entitlement, it seems to be, from my point of view, that people are extremely stressed. And it's not just it's waiting in banks, it's post offices, it's just people just being really short tempered because things are difficult, and we have rising prices. Inflation is still going up until that number says minus 10%. Nothing's it's going up, just not as quickly, and so everything is stretched to the limit. We're paying more tax, we're getting less services, nothing works. You go to the GP, they fob you off and put you off. So I don't know. I think everything around us is becoming increasingly stressful.
I think for me, David, the main concern is just having a bit of common courtesy. If you're in a store, be polite. If you're in a hospital where they're actually trying to help you, be polite. But I guess in a hospital, like I said before, it is slightly different because there is mental health concerns and so on, and people are poorly and probably in distress. But I just don't think that's the same if you're in a Greggs or a McDonald's or your local chip shop. I just don't think that's the case.
No, I agree. We've all been on the receiving end. If you work in a shop, someone's not happy. I mean, on Friday night, busy, 7 o'clock. It got really busy late on. A woman put an internet order in for 7:10, turned up at 10:07. Couldn't fit another fish in the pan between her. She wanted her order now. We couldn't do it. And then she kicked off that she'd been waiting 20 minutes for her order. I mean, I think it was a 7:10 order. She got food in hand at 12 minutes past 7. It's just because people want what they want when they want it, and just that you're right. It's just like it just seems to be that these common courtesies have disappeared. I wouldn't never dream of doing that talking to anybody like in the shop when I was younger. Presumably because your parents might have heard about it. You got a right good hiding.
I don't think I'd even do it now. If I'm honest,
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't lose my temper. I'd walk away. If someone's rude with me when I'm being served, I'll give it them back. I'm going to say like, "What's your problem?" But someone's going to have to initiate that rudeness to me.
Yeah,
you wouldn't just walk in angry. But but this is we're coming back to the shoplifting. It's as heist of it, as it's ever been. John Lewis's boss, she said, it's Dame Sharon White. Apparently, she said shoplifting has now become an epidemic. California put a law in that said any item stolen or the total theft of less than $950 wouldn't be investigated. So it basically gives a shoplifter's charter in California to go and empty stores, and that's what's been happening. San Francisco is pretty much bereft of shops now. Everyone's packed it in and gone because the police refuse to investigate shoplifting. So, is something similar going to happen to us as we start to, we've had 14 years of austerity. My wife's ex-police, and she came home one day and she said, there was job cuts and cost cuts, and bits were falling off cars and they weren't getting replaced because they didn't have the money. And she said, I think I've got to a point now where I don't think it's ever going to get fixed because they've just taken the cardboard out the back of my notebook. So her pocket notebook used to have a piece of card in the back, and they managed to get one a fraction of a penny cheaper, and you had to go, so she had to walk around with a piece of cardboard in her pocket to slide it in the back of the notebook to stop it folding when she was trying to write notes. Are we getting to a point, if that's where we're at, and this all feeds in to the fact that, everything is increasingly more stressful and distressed, and that's going to have an effect on people. But I don't know. There's no excuse for it. But I think there's got to be reasons.
I think there is a difference between theft and being really rude and aggressive.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't know. What I don't know is, are these companies using this sign as a way to sort of try and, but I'm not being funny. If someone's in a bad mood or they're really nasty or they think they're entitled, that sign's going to do nothing.
Of course not.
And if it's theft, then that's a completely different thing. I see what you're saying, though. I do think that the police ain't doing anything. So, did you see that American politician, that Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez or something?
Yes,
where she was like, these people are just taking food, and you shouldn't arrest if they're taking food. And you
see
videos of people nicking tellies, and you're
they're just mothers trying to feed their children, with a telly. But Nike stores keep getting hit, don't they?
Yeah,
trainers. You need trainers.
I don't know. I just think people need to take a breather, and I don't know if it's a post-COVID thing where most people were locked up for a while.
Here's another thing. Do you think that we're starting to see sort of families destroyed? Your traditional families where you have the influence of mum, dad, probably a grandma, granddad, generations, where you've got sort of families that split up, and you've got women who are raising kids on their own for whatever reason, and that sort of discipline and structure disappears, and then we've got 3 or 4 generations in of that now that that you've got people with no manners having kids and raising children with no manners. I don't know. Is this spiral down, this decline that now we're starting to see these adults that have basically grown up as angry kids?
I don't know, because there's some entitled wealthy people too. So
I don't know.
There is. Is it just entitlement? Full stop.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, let's see if we start seeing these signs disappearing. But it was just an observation. But
interesting.
So
interesting.
Moving on. Last topic: restaurant owner jailed over 30,000 COVID loan fraud. Turkish restaurant owner Ilhan Keçek, owner of Derwish restaurant in Watford, and a second establishment in London, is convicted of fraud for failing to notify creditors after fraudulently acquiring government-backed COVID loan, withdrawing the funds in cash to settle personal debts. Despite denying the charges, evidence leads to his conviction, resulting in imprisonment and a ban from serving as a company director. Well, good luck with that, because he'll probably be a company director again at some point.
I imagine so, yeah.
But what's your thoughts on this, David?
Yeah, it's we hit a point of maximum chaos and minimum information, and the government didn't have a clue what to do to solve any problems. So they threw money at it, didn't they? But I don't know. It was a 30 grand loan, and he's drawn it out in cash. He's done well there, hasn't he? Because every time you go to the bank and try and draw money out, they want 3 weeks notice, and the reason why. Is actually.
I forgot how ridiculous it is just putting out a little bit of money these days. Yeah, exactly. So he has done well there.
Well, if I go on holiday, I like to carry cash with me. I don't like to take.
Well, you
cards.
Are Cypriot. You like?
There's a lot of Cypriot in there still. It's not been bred out completely. So I like to have cash, and I do go and it might be £1,000, £2,000 out the account, just so I've got a backup. We've got credit cards and we've got stuff with us, but I can't travel without cash. I don't know, it's something ingrained in me. And trying to go in and drawing out £2,000 out of the bank is almost impossible. You know, why? Why do you want it? Well, I'm going on holiday. Why do you want to use a card?
I know people that have used the bounce back loan to pay off personal things.
Of course they did. Yeah, I mean, did you know? Ironically, do you know the sale of Rolexes peaked in 2020?
That's no surprise, that.
And they reckon that most of it was from people buying luxury goods from bounce back loans.
Wow.
Stuff that was disposable. Yeah, they had a 13% peak just after, about 3 months after the bounce back loans were introduced.
I know someone that got 50 grand bounce back loan and bought 50 grand's worth of Bitcoin.
Well, he would have done very well out of it, wouldn't he? Because it's gone up.
Well, I don't know when he got rid of it. He may have panicked. Yeah,
he may have sold at the wrong point.
But I don't know. I think the problem is when for whatever reason the government. Well, we know what the reason was. It was COVID. The government had to do something.
Sure.
Whether we agree with what they did, how they did it, how it was administered, they had to help. And the problem is there is always going to be some abuse when things are done like that, you know. And also, there's people I don't think this guy's probably that bad actually, but there's some people out there that really know how to scam the system. Like, for example, there's a Range Rover dealership, they're just specialist Range Rover dealership down the road here on the A5, and they get a call from someone who's like, "Oh, I want to come and see this Range Rover Sport." You know, and it was like 53,000, something like that. And he goes, "Look, you know, if I come and see it, it's a little out my way. Could we do a deal for 50?" And they were like, "Yeah, okay then, if you like it, you know." And he goes, "I'm going to send someone over. I'm really busy. I know the car I like. It's the exact model I like. I'm going to arrange you the money." Nobody goes to see it. This person rings them the next day. "Did you get the money from my company account? It's called B2L." Yeah?
Yeah.
And then turns out he didn't let the car go, but the bank ring him and say, "Oh, how come you took out a bounce back loan?" He goes, "I've not took out. This is the car garage." He goes, "I've not took out a bounce back loan. Someone had went online and done it on his name, put a bounce back loan." He then looks. This scammer was hopefully thinking that he'd figure out that B2L was bounce back loan or whatever it was, bounce back loan.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So he nearly got away with the car. This scammer had nearly got away with the car. And he was just going to send a trailer to pick it up.
Jesus. You know? So, yeah, he'd take the bounce back loan, it would have been paid into the dealer's account, and he'd have walked off with the car. And
the guy's got a loan and no car. Yeah.
It's a shame I didn't think of that. It's really clever.
But no, I think that there's people that are that way inclined, and they'll figure out they'll figure out a system, won't they? Well, and that's fraud, isn't it?
It is fraud. I mean, by late 2022, only one case had been brought to court, and there was 30 pending. Now, they've got 30 grand back off somebody, or they might not have done because he's got to pay it back. But 16,000 companies have gone bust without paying the money back. Yeah, okay, he was clearly taking the Michael because it'd been open 3 weeks. It said we're doing 125 grand. The loans were self-certified. The incomes were self-certified because the government backed up guaranteed the loans. The banks didn't care. They were just quite happy to administer it and give it back. I mean, they got their fees for administering the loans. So they reckon that there's about 500 million quid worth of insolvency costs that have had to be paid because these companies have gone under. And 21 billion may have to be written off due to fraud, which is an enormous amount of money.
But I guess you're always inherently going to have losses for fraud. And, and also, I know it's a lot, but also the loans were there to stop people from going bust. But it doesn't deal with the issue why they were going bust. There were many companies that were probably not doing so well before COVID that probably weren't going to make it anyway. Without being rude, I'm not trying to be rude. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Yeah, but why? Why does that not happen in the normal banking realm? Because there's checks and balances in the banking realm. And you wouldn't do that because the government backed it, so the banks didn't care.
Government backed it. Yeah,
so who cares? It's. Yeah. I mean, we say government money. Government doesn't have.
It's our money. No, it's our money.
Exactly. We pay it at the end of the day. That's why your taxes are so soddy now. Yeah. But I just think it's an appalling lack of financial responsibility from the government and the banks.
No, I think.
But companies' houses is rife with fraud. I think companies are the only... You can set up a company with no ID checks, with a stolen ID, and all of a sudden you've got the ability to open bank accounts and get loans.
I think the problem is, though, if the government didn't do it, they'd be outraged. We need help. We need support. So what do? You either let companies... maximum confusion, leads to maximum errors, I guess. But, here's the other thing was, what would be the cost if they did nothing? Yeah. So we're looking at how much it's cost us, but what would the bill be for the unemployment benefit that we'd have to pay? Yeah. But yeah, it's saying that it's just that COVID was a license to pretty much thieve if you were of that mind. I mean, we've talked about this before. The PPEs, one of the biggest scandals. I mean, Michelle Mone is still going through it. The VIP pipeline. This attitude of wholesale theft seemed to start from the top and work down. So I guess if you see the politicians lining the pockets, then do people think, well, if they can, why can't I? So I don't know. This attitude has got to come from the top down. But to some degree, I think they're using this Michelle Monet as a bit of a scapegoat.
Well, they are, because the person that got much more money is without sanction, but then he's a very big donor to the Conservative Party.
But also, do you remember how the media was spinning everything back then, though? Oh, we need this, we need that. They basically, they'd got, what's his name? Boris would release what was going to happen today. They'd leave it a couple of days and say, oh, we're not enacting anything for 3-4 days. And then the media would almost dictate what was going on. And I remember this whole craze about masks. The media was just constantly pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And obviously hindsight now is a beautiful thing because we can look back and say, oh, we know better. But at the same time, if
they admitted half of the advice they gave you was made up.
Yeah, but what I'm saying...
There's no science at all behind it.
But what I'm saying is, though, at that time, when there was a believed shortage on masks, MPs are just thinking, we need them regardless, And because they don't want to get voted out, that's all they think about, is staying in power. So I think, for me, I don't know the whole story, I've not really followed it, but I do think, to some degree, Michelle Monet is just...
she was a convenient scapegoat. Yeah, she's the least connected of them all. So just hang her out.
She's not that disconnected because she's a lord, isn't she? So I just think that maybe her story is quite convoluted.
She's a
lord, isn't she?
She's she's a baroness. She's baroness. She's in the House of Lords. Services to somebody. I don't know quite who.
What I'm saying is, though, they've figured out, let's throw her under the bus, and obviously take their, but ultimately you do need people with contacts in Asia, Bangladesh, China, wherever. You need those contacts. If you want something fast, you need people that know it. Like if you went to me and said, hey, Stelios, we need you to source masks from China. Do you ever bring anything from China? No, not really. Okay, then. Can you go sort that out for us? I think I'd probably put my hands up and say, I'm the wrong guy for this job. I know I can make millions, but I don't think I can do this job.
You're blessed with some sort of conscience, whereas our average politician...
No, it's not that. But if they came to me and said, hey, we need you to source batter flour, that's my thing. Rub my hands together, I'm going to make loads of money doing this.
Some of those companies that they got on the VIP pipeline had never procured anything, and they were set up purely to do that. I mean, the best one was, I think one company charged them 18 million quid for masks that didn't work, and then they charged them another $1.5 million to dispose of the masks.
So can I
they got the same. They got the contract to dispose of it as well. Go on, ask me.
I like this one. This is a good question. It just came to me. What's the difference between a mask that don't work and a mask that does work?
I have no idea. But nothing worked, did it?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Finally,
it didn't work.
Bloody hell, mate! I was waiting for you to be quicker on your feet.
I wasn't. I thought it was. I was overthinking it. I thought it was a trick question. No, the mask didn't work. Nothing bloody worked.
No. Look, I think in fairness, I was in the town the other day and I saw someone, wearing a mask outside, and I thought, bloody hell, but I suppose it's become a syndrome, and I saw someone on the motorway the other day in a car on their own wearing a mask, and I thought, so I don't know. I think it has probably become a bit of a crazy thing. Now, I can see why surgeons wear it, because there's a lot of physical things in a surgery room. There's spit, there's blood,
masks is to stop in wounds getting infected. Yeah. Masks weren't stop. Not stop viruses getting in. I mean, it's like, I can't remember what somebody said. It was like driving a car through a 9,000 lane motorway, because the virus was like a tenth of a micron and the masks were 12 microns. So it wouldn't have stopped anything going in anyway. But it made people. It was a reminder that something was going on.
So back to this guy, though. Back to this guy on this story.
Poor sod. Well, not poor sod.
Well, you're saying poor sod, but would you like to see where do you feel? Would you like to see the government going back and fixing this and trying to traipse back as much fraud as possible?
Yeah. 1 second. Max. Just ask me that again, mate. Sorry.
Would you like to see the government going back and trying to clip back as much as fraud as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I bloody well would. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's our money. Well, it's not our money. It's printed out with thin air. So, but we contribite to that thin air printing. But yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
there should be accountability for any crime. There should be no crime should be too small or too big that they just say, "Oh, we're just not that bothered about it."
No, I agree.
There was Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York in the 80s. And he had it was a zero broken windows policy. So what he did was, if somebody did a minor crime, they scooped him up and prosecuted for it. And they found out that they were taking off the little guys off the streets, and they were involved in bigger and bigger crimes, or they were parts of it. So this zero tolerance policy cleaned New York. New York went from one of the worst murder rate cities in the world to one of the lowest. I mean, it's all gone a bit backwards since then. But yeah, I mean, I don't think people should be allowed to get away with it, because what happens next time? It just happens bigger and bigger and bigger. And things are bad enough as they are. Nothing works. The health service has consuming huge amounts of money every year, and it still doesn't work. We've got longer waiting lists. The roads are full of potholes. So I don't know.
I wouldn't say full of potholes. I just drove through one continuous one the other day. So
did you? It's like a cart track.
No, I was so surprised, because last week I was driving to work, David, and every road was essentially blocked. And I thought, what the hell? Like, I went down another road, and then I found a way through, and like literally doing like a 4 or 5 mile detour. And then just by chance, all the roads are fixed now. All the roads are fixed. All the potholes are gone. I'm well impressed. So there was a momentary delay, but now it's all corrected.
Well, that's good, I think.
It's good news, isn't it?
Yeah. So were they fixing the road? Is that what they were doing?
Yeah, that was the moral of my story. Yeah, sorry.
So you didn't land that bit there, you see. I was having to guess, and well, that's good. That's a happy... Yeah. I mean, that must be nice. Birmingham must be getting some money after you've gone bust.
No, it's not Birmingham. Well, actually, technically, that's Warwickshire Council. That is.
Well, you've got money down there.
Yeah, they've got a bit feeling a bit flush.
Yes, Shakespeare's country. It's all these American tourists. They've got to have a good impression.
Oh, there isn't anywhere we are, mate. So, but the money, I guess, all ends up in the same pot. So, but mate, this has been great. We'll wrap this one up, and you start looking at the next lot of articles, and we'll do this one again soon.
Fabulous. Thank you for including me.
You don't have to say thank you no more now, mate. You're part of the team.
I'll come in now. Am I temporarily permanent or permanently temporary?
This one again. I don't know. I'll decide. All right, mate.
Don't forget my badge.
No, you'll get your badge.